They're there to exploit us, to fetishize us. And so whatever we face as a reality, once we leave that experience that benefited them, they don't give a fuck.
Niggas can't, like, if that's what you like, you have to be true to yourself, but they can't, because you done built this whole life, this whole lie. You done lied your whole life of about, yeah, you this tough top dude, or you this family man. You got your kids, you married, she owns half your stuff. You can't lose none of that, but you in love with a trans woman, and you can't come out with that, because that's going to compromise everything.
So conversations about trans women or involving trans women being brought up are very and highly important. However, I do believe that there are certain topics that are being overlooked, especially the other side. So many times we often hear about one-sided situations involving trans women, i.e. I don't know if to call it masculine side or, the male side of, the conversations, but not enough, trans women side of the conversations. And so I wanted to at least elaborate and or talk or bring some type of awareness to it, or at least from my standpoint and my viewpoint, just the other side of a trans woman and falling in love with. So for the most part, falling in love with someone like myself, for a normal male individual, means having to accept the truth and the reality of who they are and accepting their feelings. And I think that's where the issue lies, is that most men do not or are not willing to accept external feelings, or not external but internal feelings that aren't taught to them. If it's not taught to them to be normal and or okay, then it's something that is shunned and or thrown away. It gets very tiring having to put yourself out there over and over and over again, and for trans women it's not as easy as women or men who the dating pool is. It's so much more open and it's so much more freer and it's so much more liberating, because it's what's normal or what's considered normal, but for trans women it's a little bit more difficult, because there aren't many individuals who are willing to be open and honest with their feelings or say that they are trans attracted. So when it comes down to it in that aspect, it's easier for someone to overstand how or it's easier for someone to look at a guy and see, why they are, the way that they are, down low, they have a family, they have kids, they've built this life with a significant other, and, they've built this foundation, it may not be a solid or a truthful foundation, but that's not for here nor there. They've built this foundation that they probably aren't willing, they aren't willing to compromise based off of, how they feel or whatever. And in that in itself causes a lot of issues for the party on the other side. But on this side of the party, it's a whole nother shit. I think the number one thing that is kind of not so much as forgotten, but definitely overlooked, and not cared for as much is, that trans women or just trans individual in general are individuals. We are people too. We bleed, we piss, we cry, we have hearts, we have emotions, we have all of the things that everyone else on this earth embody, yet we are treated and or seen as lesser value based off of the choices that we make with our lives. And in that in itself, it causes a lot of trauma for individuals who aren't overstanding or understanding that this is the way that life is going to treat you. I'll be the first to say, and I say it all the time, there was no guide and or rule book on how to live my life as a trans woman. It was just something that I just completely begin to do based off how I feel. And most people are just now coming to that conclusion. A lot of people have came to that conclusion, but it is definitely something that is an issue, the overlookedness of the other side and how we are treated, how we are felt after dealing with individuals who are trans attracted but aren't trans willing, trans attracted, just having that attraction towards a trans woman. And I've been in a situation several times, and I'm not one to name drop. I'm not one to, out someone or expose someone, so that's not something that I would ever do. But I can honestly say I've been in situations where I felt certain things for people, and had to walk away from them because someone else didn't show me the same thing. And or having someone tell me that they feel some type of way about me, but choosing to go against it based off of what society says or society standards. And in that situation, it's, like I said, a whole nother shit show. It's not talked about enough how trans women like myself feel after, being depleted. And that's exactly what we are. We are depleted for, whether it's sexual energy or just a transfer of energy. Because transfer of energies happens between conversations. They happen just between, gatherings where you're just sitting with someone enjoying their company. But transfer of energy that feels like it means something more, and that you feel like you're going to get something more, but it just does not happen based off of someone's unwillingness to be trans willing. And when I say trans willing, I mean to be able to stand up, step out, show out with someone that they care about or have great feelings. I definitely feel like situations like this are heavy factors as to why trans women are more trans women, consider sex working or, just engaging in acts that are, I wouldn't even say not favorable, but it can cause a lot of issues in the long run, or it's just not safe. Like I said, safe working, sex working, whatever, prostitution, I don't care, however you call it, whatever you call it. It's just not one of those things that is safe for most trans women. And you see it or you hear it most of the time, how trans women have been murdered, engaging and or dealing in certain acts, or how they make their living. So I definitely feel like that contributes to it, as well as a lot of the trauma of not being accepted or loved, or even just taught how to love themselves, ourselves, as adolescents coming up. And a lot of that has to be with, because many of us do hide who we are until we can come out and show out without the fear of abandonment from, or the judgment from our friends, family, and our peers that are around us, that we have to be around on a constant basis. But I feel like it's not talked about enough, just what we face and how we go through and how we feel. It's no fun having to have so much feelings for someone, and having them completely destroy them because they don't feel like they're strong enough, or they don't feel, it's not even they feel, that they choose that they're not strong enough, or they want to conform to what society standards and or more than enough. We are faced with rejection, we are faced with ridicule, we are faced with embarrassment, because many trans women like myself are above and beyond goers, when we care about someone, do anything, put you off the back. And so it puts us in this position where we look the part, we fit the part, and it's a great part, but it's a secret part. And in that, it completely tears us down when someone that we care about doesn't give us the same thing in return. So dealing with someone who isn't open, or someone who's fallen in love with a trans woman but isn't willing to be with a trans woman is very difficult on the other side, because then we have to pick up the pieces of our lives and ourselves, and continue to push forward, which then, and just like with anyone, once you're heartbroken, you can go through so many ups and downs. You can turn to so many people for help, or just a source of validation. And whether you go to someone good, whether you go to someone bad, you're always trying to fill that void when you are heartbroken. And so many trans women decide to fill it with, sex working, just negativity, or just a negative thinking, and just completely forget about love in general. From the other perspective, I definitely can see where the detrimental mindset can come from, for trans women, like myself, and probably like you who's watching this, where we are just so set in stone and stuck in the ways of, how we go about living our lives, and, this, that, and the third. Most trans women don't really care when it comes down to how they live their lives and how they get it, when dealing with individuals who are married and are down low, because they've been through experiences where they have been hurt. And hurt people. We all know this. This is something that everyone should know. It's kind of universal. But that doesn't make it right. And it also creates a a lot of shit and karma for individuals. So for the other side and our perspective, it's very difficult because it puts us in this cycle where we are stuck because we are either hurt, we are unwilling, and we are just completely and utterly tired, of the bullshit. And it becomes a lot easier to be open and witness the bullshit once you've actually seen the bullshit, whether you sniffed it, tasted it, or stepped in it, or no matter how many times you dealt with the bullshit, we are able to see the bullshit from a mile away. And it becomes a lot more difficult to engage with individuals and have actual partners or build substantial relationships, whether it's platonic, romantic, monogamous, whatever. I don't really care. However you want to split it, toss it, spin it. It becomes very difficult just based off of someone falling in love with a trans woman but isn't trans. I think it's a different kind of hurt when you are, and this isn't for anyone who's like, oh well, I knew he had someone. No, not this isn't that kind of person. I mean, like when you are actively talking to someone, you have like that connection with them, or you're building that connection, and then it just completely stops because this person, decided to go the other way. For whatever reason, when you, within your heart of hearts, know that this person, y'all have shed some things and done some things and experienced some things, or you have just felt some things that were strong, like out of this world. It's a type of hurt, that can break a lot of individuals and has broken a lot of individuals. I mean, when you are strong enough, because everyone is strong enough, but not everyone is strong enough. But if you have the right support, or if you have the right heart, or if you have the strength in your heart, once you are able to get over that hurt, I promise you, it's so much more beautiful on the other side. You start to see the lessons of why things happen the way that they happen, or you just see just how much you have grown from the situation if you allow it to let you grow. Or if you, if you allow it to let you, or if you allow the situation to benefit you in a way where you can grow. Sorry, my terminology and my wording is completely off right there. But it's so much more beautiful once you are able to see certain situations for what they are, and just stand in your power and acceptance of what is and what was, and continue to move forward in whatever light you choose. However, I do want to say that because, and this is me being completely honest, and I would not be me if I didn't say anything of advice and or support to anyone who watches this video who is trans. I think it's something to be said that most of us heal ourselves from these instances or the other incidents that causes so much trauma, that make us feel unloved, that make us feel unworthy, that make us feel like we aren't good enough to accept love when it's blatant in our face. There are so many of us who are presented opportunities with individuals, but we've been hurt so much that we aren't willing to accept the opportunity or the individual because it doesn't look normal to us. Then we become those who treated us like shit. Love doesn't have a look. Love doesn't have it doesn't have any bounds. So if you have been hurt, like most of us have been, understand that it's okay, but it is up to you to heal that so that you aren't detrimental to yourself, because love is always going to be there for you. I promise you. We all experience it. I'm literally living this shit. Like it's out there for you. You literally have to be willing to accept what is, what was, and heal from it. Understand that whatever issue, whatever, connection, whatever relationship that you had with anyone who you felt that was strong enough, that you felt that would make it, that you felt would go past and what it was, it's not your job to wait for someone to receive their karma. It's not your job to continuously check up on someone to see if they're receiving the karma or see if their life is shit. Most times, these people are going on and living completely happy lives. They'll receive karma for whatever it is that they receive karma for, but it probably won't be in any way, shape, or form when you are around, or when you know about it, or you probably be doing something completely else. So give yourself your healing and move on. It sucks like hell to have someone who is falling in love with you who isn't willing to be with you or choose you. But it's so much more beautiful when you choose yourself, because then the options, and I'm not just meaning options in individuals, I mean just the options in life, for yourself are endless. So give yourself that. Always be choosing to give yourself the healing. Always be choosing to give yourself the overstanding. Always be choosing to love yourself, accept yourself, and always be choosing to express yourself, your stories, because your stories can help someone else.